Financial planning can help you achieve long-term goals, and my next guest has ways to help you win no matter what. Joining me now is Providence Financial Insurance Services President Anthony Siccaro. Now, Anthony, there are a lot of uncertainties right now, but for someone who is actively saving, what should be the first step? What should people be paying attention to?
Well, I think the first step is to develop some kind of a plan. If you read my book, if you hear my podcast or listen to my radio show, the first step is almost always develop a plan. And that plan is going to dictate where you're going to go. That plan is going to be your guiding post, your true north for whatever phase of life you're in. When you have a plan, I think there's going to be two benefits of that. Number one is you're certainly going to know where you're going. If you don't have a target, then how do you know if you're headed in the right direction? So knowing where you're going. But I think the more valuable part of a plan that's often underlooked and underemphasized is the simple fact that it helps you not panic when things don't go your way. Part of your plan has to consider that not everything is going to go your way all the time. We know that. You have to plan for that, and no good decisions are ever made when you panic. So if you have a plan, it's going to help you not panic. And I think that's really the first step, whatever phase of life you're in. Have a plan so you know what direction you're going and you don't panic when the storm hits.
Mm-hmm. Now, should you adjust those plans if you maybe get a sign that a storm could be coming, right? I mean, we often have a lot of these economic indicators that we discuss on this show. So if there's an indicator that points to worsening financial conditions, should you adjust the plan that you have in place?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And not only should you adjust the plan, you're going to be forced to adjust the plan along the way because we don't know what's going to happen. Imagine wanting to drive from California to Florida. You're going to map it out. You're going to punch it into Google Maps. You're going to know what direction you're going to go. But then with weather conditions, with road closures, with accidents and so on, you're going to need to adjust that route as you go. And it's no different, whatever phase of life you're in. You must adjust your plan as news comes out and as economic conditions change.
And focusing on the stock market and investments, how do you make sure that your portfolio is diversified enough to really account for all those possible scenarios?
So I think it's important to diversify among asset classes instead of just in one asset class. It's very common for someone to come in off of my, however they come in, however they meet us and sit down with me, and for them to believe that they're diversified. And to them, what that means is that they have a bunch of stocks or they have a bunch of mutual funds. Well, the reality is they're diversified within one asset class, but it's really important to be diversified among asset classes, not just stocks, but add some bonds or fixed income. Additionally, we can be talking about real estate, add some real estate in there. Additionally, we could be talking about within each class, you can be diversified as well, too. Within stocks, there's sub-diversifications. There could be the blue chip stocks. There could be small caps, mid cap, large caps. Within bonds, you could have junk bonds. So diversification, not only within an asset class, but among asset classes is also very key.
And what's the biggest financial planning mistake that you often see people make?
Yeah, I'm going to say by far the biggest mistake that I see people make is not being invested properly for the phase of life that they're in. This generally affects the older generation, people that are retired, more than the younger generation. People that are younger in the accumulation phase of life are often dollar cost averaging in mutual funds and stocks, and that's what they should be doing. And if they don't make a lot of changes, but they've got 10 or 20 or 30 years ahead of them, that works out to be okay. But if you're 60, 65 years old, you're on the brink of retirement, the biggest mistake that I see those individuals make is they stay invested the way that they've always been invested. And even though their life is about to make a paradigm shift, they have not made any type of shift with their investments. And you must be invested properly for the phase of life you're in. If you're going to be retiring and you're going to need income off your portfolio, that's going to be a completely different strategy than when you're heading to retirement and you're putting money in. In the accumulation phase, you're saving, you're adding. In the distribution phase, the retirement phase, it's about protecting and withdrawing. Two different strategies, but most people don't ever make that shift, even though their life has.
So protecting, withdrawing, what other things can folks do if they are preparing to retire to make sure that they're not making those mistakes?
Yeah, so there's a few other things in addition to the finances. It goes back to developing a plan, making sure you know what your income and expenses are. If you don't know what your income and expenses are, then the fact is that you're simply not going to be able to develop a plan. It all is going to start with that. You want to also make sure that when it comes to your income, how do you maximize your income? If you have Social Security, what's the best way to take Social Security? It's very complicated. Sometimes it takes software to figure out the best way to take Social Security. If you have a pension, how are you going to take your pension? You're going to take it as a single survivor annuity, as a joint survivor annuity. You have to have all that ahead of time. You also have to plan for inflation. You also have to plan for the expenses that you don't have now. If you're going to retire and you're going to travel, that's going to be added expense. So it really goes back to developing a plan that's going to help guide you going forward, whatever stage of life you're in, but more important, I would say, in retirement.
Important advice. Anthony Soccaro, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.